Right. Okay, so welcome to my Moon Power Musings.
You
Uh,
love
and
to be
today
here.
we are joined by Sophie Alexandra Wurr. I am so excited for this conversation. Sophie is deeply, deeply connected to her feminine and runs incredible evenings for women called Teas, which is like connected to the Temple of Eros. So all about embodiment practices and all about like cultivating your Eros and allowing these different archetypes to come forward from you as well. So Sophie, I'm so excited for this conversation. I want to hear like all about what you do and how you got there.
Hi,
So
Mary.
yeah, hello. So will you give us like a little bit of an intro into the work that you offer, and then also like how it came to be? I find it so fascinating as I talk to all of these different women and practitioners on how do we come into sharing this feminine work, and like what was the pathway in?
Mm. Well, it's so good to be here and to kind of reconnect to you. We were just saying this, weren't we, that we met God, how many years ago was that now?
A
Going
long
on
time
eight
ago.
maybe or something crazy. Like a long time ago. Anyway, through our mutual friend Molly. So yeah, it's so lovely to reconnect. And as I was saying before, we jumped on the call that I just wanted to have a look at your website this morning, which is beautiful, and your radiant self. And I recognized so much of myself in your story and your about me. Coming from a background of fashion, I think I was the same thing. I was a stylist, or I was assisting a stylist. And when I was about 26, and I'd been, a couple of years sort of out of university working in the fashion industry and just kind of killing myself, working crazy hours, getting paid very little, just really expected to kind of run around. And what I find so interesting about the fashion industry is an industry that's based off of the feminine. It's kind of selling. It's doing a lot to it uses the feminine form to sell, and yet it's one of the most disconnected industries from the true like cycle of the feminine, and even honoring the fact that we are cyclical and that we can't work on a yang, masculine sort of clock 24 hours and run ourselves into the ground running around. So yeah, there's a lot of distortion in that industry. And so yeah, that was kind of where I was at when I was 26, and then I had a nervous breakdown, and and really basically hit rock bottom. I was also partying a lot in my personal life, and as you know, those two industries go very much hand in hand as well. And I was just completely disconnected from my true self and from my feminine essence. So it was sort of at that time I came off the pill, which is when, and I got sober and I went to India, and, I did that whole kind of like spiritual thing. So I went on a 2.5 year journey, like being sober and going to India and really going on a yoga teacher training. So the very sort of typical route into the world of spirituality. And then, it was when I came off the pill that I think I really started to get into the deeper sort of shadow and trauma healing work that I needed to do, because it was the coming off the pill that allowed me to see how much was really suppressed. And so I had amenorrhea for 6 years, which means absence of menstrual cycle. And so I went on this very long sort of 6-year journey to regain my cycle holistically, which I got back on Christmas morning on 2018, which was just the most incredible like Christmas gift of all time. So emotional. And in that time period, I also did 4.5 years of conscious celibacy, went on a very big tantric journey, healing my wounding with, my sexual trauma from a very, very young age. And yeah, so really that sort of decade was a very long healing quest, and now it's kind of brought me to where I am today, which is very much being a facilitator and a teacher and a guide, I guess, because I've really journeyed that path so deeply in my own, and I'm sure that that's a story that so many of us can sort of resonate with.
Yeah, totally. It's always the way in, isn't it? Like mine was so much around feeling like that I had no self-worth and no self-love. And so my whole whole journey has been around like connecting that to that part of myself to bring that forward. And that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing we end up teaching is really our deepest wounding, and then that's what we bring forward, because when we like held it and like tended to that part, and then we can share it with others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
beautiful. And then so with the work that you do now, you know, it's so central and really connected to Eros. And how did you get into that avenue of the work? Because, you know, there's so many facets of the feminine and different ways that we can work in. So how did you come to the bit that you are in?
Well, like you just spoke into, I mean, that's just my soul flavor. I know that my soul has evolved through a sort of temple priestess lineage, which is definitely a more recent discovery. You know, as we deepen into this work, I think it does become more nuanced, and we hone in on exactly, I think like you spoke to, there's a sort of broader umbrella at the beginning of the healing journey, which was kind of more sort of everything feminine healing, and also very much that sort of, which is more universal, but very much those foundational blocks of like self-love, self-worth, you know. For me, it was also a huge body dysmorphia, disordered eating journey. So that was the kind of foundation. But now, you know, having been doing this work for 11 years now, like I've definitely honed in on what my particular soul medicine is. And I would say it definitely is. It's more than just sensuality and Eros, because I'm very much like, I'm passionate about the menstrual cycle and working with my menstrual cycle. And, you know, that was such a huge part of my journey. But yeah, I really do feel like where my interest, I suppose, lies most now is in the realms of sensuality and Eros. And as I say, having such a strong kind of temple priestess soul flavor, I was called to start erotic dancing about 2 years ago now. So I went on this very sort of underground journey, kind of paused my coaching business for a while, just followed this call to become a stripper. And yeah, wow. I really just emerged from that journey in Christmas just gone. So December just gone. So I'm really just getting back into my teaching work, which feels so right. But that's where the body of work, both Tease and Temple of Eros, were birthed from. So Tease is basically a sort of tantric lap dance workshop, and it's really, really amazing. And we work with these 5 archetypes, which I sort of identified in my many nights in the VIP rooms, make a really good dance. So it's the sensualist, the huntress, the temple priestess, the courtesan, and the sacred slut. And then Temple of Eros is a much bigger journey where we go into each one of those archetypes with, you know, much deeper embodiment practices, which really do sort of cover the range of the feminine, from the lighter aspects to the darker aspects, you know, a variety of embodiment practices that really help women become more integrated and more whole. And what my work really boils down to at the end is wholeness. I think that I have a lot of, like, I merge the light and the dark feminine, and I really love to see that in other women and help women embrace their sort of full range and come into greater integration and wholeness within themselves.
Oh my God, beautiful. I love that. Oh, wow, this is so exciting. I love all of the different archetypes. Like, I remember when I was exploring the different archetypes, I was doing this Tao Tantric training, and each one, you know, you would explore and you would do, and then whichever was your like weakest one, the other sisters were like, okay, this is the one where you still need to embody, and so this is the one that you had to perform to the whole.
Amazing and challenging.
Oh my God, so challenging. And so my one was the one that I had to perform was the sacred slut.
I love it.
I was like, okay. And so you had to like make this whole outfit for yourself as well. And I was like, okay, I need to, but it wasn't even the sacred slut. It was like the really like just like cheap slutty slut one. And I was like, okay. And I was thinking, you know, I was on the training. I didn't like have access to like going to a shop to buy anything. And I thought, like, what's the kind of like cheapest thing that I could do? And what I did is I made myself a bikini out of, this is so funny, out of dirty face masks. I made myself like this really slutty like knicker out of a face mask underneath, and then like
Amazing.
together for my bra.
That
And
is
then
incredible.
performance, and it was like, oh my god, it was so challenging for me. And like afterwards I was like shaking. All right, I was like, yeah, I'm fine.
That is, yeah, I mean, that is hard. That is really hard, like stepping into the one that's most, maybe asleep within us, shall we say, and then like bringing it to a group of people is very tantric of you.
It was definitely a stretch. But I'd love to delve into the archetype. So we were talking a little bit before around cycle and how, obviously there's different energies throughout the cycle. And when we tap into the different archetypes that you work with, do you feel like that there's different ones that come more alive throughout the cycle?
Yeah, I love this question. So I was feeling into this morning when you sort of brought this to me. And so I'll speak to right now because I am like super premenstrual right now, and my bleed is switching back from the new moon to the full moon. So I kind of feel like I'm also in an extra sort of like discombobulation, but also what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like reorientation. So yeah, I'm feeling really kind of just super premenstrual. So I'm going to start there because that energy is easy for me to access right now. And it's so clear to me that the archetype that is most online during premenstrual time is the huntress. And I think we can all relate to that. It's, when we're more, definitely slightly more ferocious, definitely slightly more like, okay, well, I'll speak to the light sides of it and then the shadow sides of it. So on the light sides of it, when we're premenstrual, typically when we're working with our cycle and we're in tune with our cycle, we can access our discernment and our boundaries more cleanly, more easily. And that's such a gift of the premenstrual phase. And so, the huntress is all about sort of discernment and boundaries. And if we think about sort of an animal in the wild, she's also, it's like if something kind of came towards her, she would snap. Like there's a could be not short fuse, but you could sort of see it as that as well. So there's a little bit of bite in her, let's say. So that's obviously all related to the premenstrual. And it's such a gift. And for me, one of the reasons we work with the huntress, it's so essential to have the huntress online for our sacred slut to be a healthy expression, because we need discernment and we need boundaries when we're playing in the realms of the sacred slut. So so the other one for me that also comes online during the premenstrual phase is the sacred slut a bit, because I don't know about you, but I get very aroused when I'm in my premenstrual phase. And it's different from that ovulation kind of aroused. It's not that sort of urge to, it doesn't feel like my ovaries are involved. It's much more of a primal kind of, it's got nothing to do with, there's a way, the evolutionary sort of impulse to procreate. It's like, I just want to have like animal sex and really enjoy it, So those for me are the two that really come online during the premenstruum.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, beautiful. I love it when you said that with the animal, because Luna, who's my cat here, like she has really taught me about this. She's so like, and it's like that, like no, like when you just like need to say no. I feel the premenstrual as well, like that really like you just stop, like you just I'm not taking any shit. No, that's it. Yeah. So I love that you've weaved it in with the huntress.
And of course the huntress is where we do it. So in Temple of Eros, it's also where we do like sacred rage practices and a really powerful, potent practice about aging. And I feel like that's also all related to the premenstrual time as well. It's like, we obviously feel more spiky in our mood. And so it's just so a time of huntress. Yeah.
Oh my God. And I'm sort of like, oh, shall we go into the aging one? Like, should we touch into it a little bit? Because we spoke a tiny bit before we came on. And so what's the practice that you do around that?
Oh, honestly, I'm so glad we're going into this. It's something that's very alive for me at the moment, and it was for me one of the most potent practices in. So I've just kind of come out of holding a 7-week container called Temple of Eros for a beautiful coven of 12 women, and out of 5 archetypes. And each week we did sort of 3 embodiment practices. But this one for me was one of the ones that I found the most potent to hold. And of course there were loads, but like this one really, really, and maybe that's because it's alive for me, but obviously, I'm on that sort of cusp now where I'm 38 in February. So I'm really starting to see the signs of aging. And with the way that the world is going in terms of Instagram and a lot of my work being on Instagram, the invitation and the temptation to use filters and things is so present. And I'm really on this journey with it myself where I'm like, I teach the feminine. So I don't want to, I refuse to kind of disown and deny the aspect of the feminine that is the aging and the crone and it is completely not in alignment with my value system. And of course there is, I'm just noticing my stuff coming up around that, so it's a journey. So anyway, in this ritual, we did a really powerful ritual where we all looked in the mirror and really, obviously the music's all relevant and things, but really took in, smiled and took in our appearance and noticed how it's changed and sort of really looked at any lines that are coming and things like that. Just really sitting with that question and looking at ourselves through that lens and then journaling on it and then, just sharing. And there was a lot of tears and a lot of movement. And then we did a sacred rage practice because, it brings up a lot. It's a full on threshold, this sort of late 30s, early 40s stage. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Oof. I feel that one so deeply, and this is something I've definitely been journeying in as well, being in my early 40s and really noticing, you can't really see here now, but the 2 lines that are here. And every time I get in the car and you look in the mirror to check the back one, and then I catch my forehead and I'm like, oh, and it's really a struggle. And I really am like, ooh. And then also it's the face just frowns now naturally. It didn't used to do that. And so then I have to really come in and really hold myself. And I was walking up the tour a few months ago, and I find there's a certain place on the tour. I don't know if you've experienced this. This is the tour in Glastonbury, by the way. And there's a place where I walk up, and whenever I'm there, all of a sudden these insights will come. The insight that was coming was really around self-love and self-worth. And it was showing me all of the places where I'm berating myself or being unkind. And it was showing me the 2 lines. And it was, and then it was just literally just send your love, send your presence, send that liquid light into those places and just hold it, stop fighting it, stop being in battle with this part of yourself and embrace and accept and love. And whilst on that walk at that moment, I was like, oh my God, that feels so good. That feels so good. And then, but this is a practice to return to, because I tell you, every time I'm getting in the car, I'm accidentally seeing these lines and being oh, and then being okay, and coming back to it. But I think that what's my point to this is what you're doing is so powerful and so needed, because there is a lot of grief in aging, and this is just this is truth, or for me anyway, there is.
I think it's so universal, and I love what you've just shared. Number one, it is a practice, and we have a responsibility, I would say, to actually really actually sort of make this part of our practice to continue to love ourselves as we age. And like I love shadow work, and I just feel like if, so how many women are going through this, but they're not even actually owning the fact that they're going through it, or, understanding that you're not in it alone. Like, so why I love that practice is that, number one, it creates community around something that we're probably all feeling. And like, I'm looking at you and I'm like, this is madness. You know what I mean? So it's like, we can mirror back to each other, because it's a collective illness. It's a collective illness. So I really feel like the more it's in the shadows, the worse it's going to be, like anything. So the number one thing is, first of all, let's just like actually really look at ourselves in the mirror with, not just looking at ourselves in the mirror, but actually smiling and seeing the lines, seeing the aging, and being with what that brings up. So like really actually sitting in that, acknowledging that, owning the grief, owning the rage at, what society has like given us, and also not judging ourselves for having that, because we do live in a society that has conditioned us this heavily out of aging. So I just feel like being with all these things is so, so important, and is such an important part of our practice to be able to get to a place, which is certainly what I want anyway, of like aging gracefully. Like, no matter what, I still am going to choose personally, this is a personal decision, but my choice is to honor that aging process and bring as much grace and eros to it as possible. Because I can tell you this, like, my eros is not going anywhere. Someone asked me at a party recently, and they were like, I think you lead with your sexuality too much. And he says to me, what are you going to do with when you're 70? And I was like, I'm going to have just as much eros when I'm 70. Thank you very much. And he was like, good answer.
I can imagine that conversation was like, you picked the wrong lady.
I'm in my highest energy.
I love it. Amazing. So as we turn around the wheel, so should we go into bleed time next?
Yes, let's. Yeah, perfect. Okay, let me have a sip. I feel like I need to shake that conversation out. Okay, so bleed is, for me, another really obvious one is Temple Priestess, the time where predominantly Temple Priestess. I noticed that they all kind of have a predominant one and then a little bit of a flavor of a second one. Yeah, so predominantly Temple Priestess, makes total sense. Like, our cervix is open, we're connected very much like down in our womb, but we're also connected to the kind of to spirit, to the ethers, shall we say, or, to the spirit realm. So, and like the Temple Priestess, she's a portal between worlds. So very much connected to body and to earth and to, womb, but also very much connected to God, goddess, spirit. So for me, that's a really clear one. And then also, I would also say the centralist, because the centralist is very much about kind of going inwards and being attuned to our sensations, to our felt sense. And so for me, the bleed time is a time when I actually have the space, or I create the space to kind of go inwards, and I am more attuned to the kind of the sensitive realms and the emotional realms and the dream time and things like that. So those two definitely feel aligned for me for the bleed time.
Beautiful, I love that. Can you speak more into the Temple Priestess and how you embody that?
Say that last bit of your question again.
And how you would embody the Temple Priestess as well.
In my bleed, or just like where else?
Both, yeah.
A bit of, okay. So, well, in my bleed, I don't really sort of make any kind of effort to. It just happens naturally, I think, because of because the cervix is open, and obviously we are more connected to our womb during that time, I would say anyway. So I feel like that's just a natural thing that happens. And in life, like, I think for me, where I feel her energy most is any time that like my channel is open. So like I'm acting like a vessel. So it's like during our bleed, we can really receive, insight and downloads. And that for me is very Temple Priestess. Like when I do photo shoots and things of playing with her energy, it's always like with my hands like up, and it's very much about receiving and then drawing energy like a Temple Priestess would have done. They literally would have received the goddess into their body and then made love as the goddess. So it's very much about receiving and being a vessel, being a channel. So, you know, when we're in that bleed time and we're so receptive to kind of intuition, and we're so receptive in that way, yeah, that is just, it's not something you really try, it just happens naturally. And then anytime I'm teaching, anytime I'm in that in that phase, sorry, in that quality of like just receiving, you know, sort of channeling, basically, like when I'm teaching, when I'm doing creative work as well, I suppose. Yeah, anytime like that it feels very, having a cup of cacao, doing creative work, that feels very temple priestess, just in terms of like, oh, I'm receiving information and drawing it down and channeling it through. And then of course, like lovemaking as well, if you choose to, especially if you're in more of a, say, a sacred sexuality practice rather than a sort of huntress or sacred slut kind of lovemaking experience or self-pleasure, you know, if it's more with breath and more, just a more of a kind of sacred sexuality practice, I would say that's of course very temple priestess. Yeah, those are the things that come up for me.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. So good. I'm doing this temple priestess dance training at the moment.
Amazing.
Amazing. Like when you open up to the archetypes and like drawing temple priestess to move through, and it's like everything is just kind of shifts and changes. It's so beautiful. It's like I love what you said. It's like the drawing up and like the pulling up and having it through you, like being the vessel. I love
Yeah,
that.
totally. I love that. I would love to know more about that, that dance training. And actually, you just reminded me, like dance for me is probably another huge place, because so when I dance, a lot of the time I'll start my dance through a practice I teach called Shakti shaking, which is more sort of feels a bit more like huntressy. But then, you know, when my whole body is kind of overtaken by the goddess, shall we say, or by the, you know, Shakti, then, you know, if I'm actually being led through a dance and it's not me dancing, I'm being danced by goddess, by Shakti, that to me is very temple priestess as well. Yeah. It's any time we open ourselves up, really, I guess, to be a vessel for spirit. Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. So good. What about this as well? So as you're in your bleed time, like, do you have any rituals that you really adore to do? Like, what's your bleed time process?
That's such a good question, because it's actually changed, really evolved for me. I used to be so much more kind of like, I mean, I was pretty hardcore about it for a while, like no tech. And I still really try and do that. Like I, at least, especially for the first 2 to 3 days of my bleed now, I'm still pretty good with honoring that, of sort of deleting Instagram and really, yeah, like I don't want my awareness going out. That's a time to kind of really come inwards. Yeah, I used to be really, really kind of strict around my bleed, and that makes sense given, you know, I lost it for so long. It became such a sacred part of my practice, but I actually feel like it's evolved now and I'm a bit more relaxed about it. I just more relaxed and more potter around the house. You know, I definitely, my first 2 days, I definitely like to stay in my, stay in my own space. I don't sort of see people. I try and delete Instagram, or I do delete Instagram, but I try and stay off the, off online as much as possible. And lots of baths, just like nourishment and things, but I'm not as kind of hardcore as I used to be about it. Yeah. I also find it a really creative time, especially not day 2, but like, yeah, I also find it a really creative time. So I will often do creative work sort of day 3 onwards, because I think it is a beautiful time to kind of be in connection to, you know, creativity streaming in. So yeah, I used to be like, I'm going to pre-cook kitchery and like lie down for 5 days and do absolutely nothing else. I'm pretty like militant about it. But now it's just more, I think it's just more, just me time and very relaxed yin time, you know? What about you?
Yeah. Well, I used to be really strict as well, but I would do like these hilarious things where I hadn't even got my period yet, but I felt like that she was coming. And like for one time I had a massage booked and I canceled the massage and it's like, actually, I can't come. I'm waiting for my period. And then she called me back and she was like, if your period hasn't come yet, do you want to come for the massage? And I was like, actually, yeah, I'll come.
Thank gosh for her.
Like sat on the sofa just waiting. I was like, okay, come on.
Very funny, isn't it?
Very funny. Yeah, so I used to be like a lot stricter as well.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I try and make just space for myself and just space to rest. And what I've been noticing like the last few bleeds, and I think this is, you know, part of like having your own business and like needing to push things forward and like being the driver of your own thing, is like I've been really struggling with like, oh, like coming in and like actually like on the surface it looks like I'm resting. To anybody else it would, to anyone that doesn't honor their bleed, it would really seem like I am, but on that just very, very, very subtle internal level, I can feel my energy still like wanting to pull outwards. So I very consciously be like, okay, come on, Chloe, it's okay, just come on, like just come back, return to yourself, you know. And so this is, it's no, I've noticed that like, actually for like the last 3 bleeds. And I spoke it out loud to my friend just last week, and so and now talking about it again now, and so I feel like that it's turning, you know, because I think it's also really important to be aware of what's coming up on your bleed time as well. Like, okay, this is what I'm struggling with a bit, and okay, what can I do? And so I feel like what you said, like deleting Instagram, I'm so gonna do that.
That is definitely a good one. I do like to do that. But I love, see, what you've just said is, for me, I think there was a part, there's almost like a time in the sort of feminine awakening journey, shall we say, where it's like we get really strict with ourselves, and actually we're then approaching something that should be just really soft and intuitive with this like really like yang energy. And sometimes, you know, also it kind of depends where, you know, if I'm bleeding with the full moon, my energy will naturally be more like, will be higher. So it's kind of like, if it really doesn't feel right to me to lie in bed and do nothing, then I'm going to honor that. Like oftentimes I'll do washing, or I'll do, you know, I'll do creative work because or I'll read, and I love that because that's what feels right for me at the time. And then sometimes it is like, especially if I'm bleeding with a new moon, like, oh my God, I need to lie in bed and just do nothing on day 2 in particular. But I've just got so much more relaxed with it. And like, you're right, like we are running our own business, and it is challenging. It is challenging to switch off. It really is. And, you know, one day, if we're mothers, if you want to be, or if, you know, we're not necessarily going to be able to fully switch off either. So it's like,
I know, it's so funny. I was thinking about this the other day actually, because, you know, like my deepest longing is to be a mother, and
you'd be such a good mom.
you. And sometimes it brings me so much sadness that I haven't experienced that yet in this lifetime. And it's, you know, that's something like that holds a lot of grief for me. And again, like I really allow myself to go into it, and I really allow myself to feel it. And then like recently I was thinking, oh wow, like why don't, instead of like being in the grief for it, you know, like feel it when it comes, but also just really enjoy that actually I have the spaciousness when I need it.
Yeah.
The spaciousness when I bleed, that I can create my life to be able to go into it. And when I put a baby in, it's not going to be like that.
Yeah. I think that as well. For sure. I think so many things that we take for granted now will be like, oh my God, do you remember when I could just lie in bed all day on the second day of my bleed? So I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this now while I can.
Oh, I love that. Okay, beautiful. Amazing. Okay, so should we go around into spring and the archetype?
Yes, great. Okay, so let me have a set. And what did I have for spring? Let me double check. Oh yeah, okay, so this is the only one that I've got one written down for, but I wonder if another one will appear as I talk about it. But so the did I say the hang on. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay. So the one that I wrote down for spring for follicular is the centralist. Again, mainly because I feel like, you know, that sort of phase where you're kind of coming out of the bleed, and it's a little bit like you feel like new and freshly born, and there's like creative energy coming online, but it's still quite tender. So I feel like I think this is the one that didn't have such a clear answer for me, but I feel like if I feel into it, it's sort of that tenderness and that, well, for me, I know that if I do really honor my bleed and take that time for myself, I can really struggle with coming out of that sort of depth and back into the sort of topside yang world. Like, I really struggle with that sometimes. So I think there's that sort of tenderness, and we've been in this deep place of being connected to the more sort of lunar realms, I say, or like the more feminine realms, the more unconscious, the more sort of those kind of realms. So there is this kind of deep sensitivity in us. So I think that's mainly why I've put this one there. But as I say, this is the one that wasn't as clear for me.
Beautiful. I love that. And I'm so with you. By the time I've like dropped into my bleed stops, I'm like, I'm not ready. Don't send me out.
I really do struggle with that threshold. Maybe that's part of the reason why our psyche resists it as well.
Yeah, maybe, exactly. But then once I've crossed the threshold, then I'm like, oh, hello world. And I always know when I've crossed, because all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what are my friends doing?
Yeah.
I like pop out again. Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Okay. And then so let's go into the sensualist. Like what do those practices look like when you're holding them?
Well, if we do have time for our little embodiment practice, then it's basically just one. It's two but they're like one basically on the sensualist. So yeah, I can give you the embodied experience of that. But basically, the sensualist is the element of water. So I can leave it there if you want, if you think we'll have time.
Yeah, we 100% have time. We want the embodiment practice, babe. But oh my god.
Okay.
Beautiful. And then, okay, so let's turn the wheel again, and so into inner summer. What archetype do you?
So this one again was pretty clear for me. Like, number one came out as sacred slut and the courtesan. So I feel like if you were in that, especially when inner summer is aligned with actual summer, but there's that real sort of fiery yang energy, yang feminine energy, but also just like wanting to be out and about on the town and be seen and play and sort of there's a lot of playfulness and being out a lot, much more social, I think, during the like high summer months and during our inner summer as well. I think it's that kind of playful side to the sacred slut, but also the kind of wanting to be seen and the wanting to get dressed up. I know I have that in the summer and like, just going to more parties and that kind of thing. So I'm literally thinking about summer, but also ovulation. And then the courtesan again is that kind of, being out and about, being way more social. That's why those two kind of came to me.
I love that. And were you talking to the sacred slut and like to do the light and the dark attributes as well?
So important. Yeah. So all the archetypes have a shadow and a light side, like everything. And with the sacred slut. So okay, let's see. Maybe I'll start with the shadow sides. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The shadow sides are, if the slut is disconnected from her heart, and it's kind of purely, sex with no heart, that's obviously going to get us and other people into trouble. If she's disconnected from her discernment, so if she's disconnected from huntress energy and from her own discernment, of course, that is very much a part of my personal life journey, but also, of course, as well, I've seen a lot of the kind of the shadow side of this archetype working as an erotic dancer. So, so again, as I would say, like when I was dancing, I would always really try and connect. And I think this is partly why I was one of the sort of highest earners, was because the men could actually feel that I actually cared about them. Not 100% of the time, but most of the time I would really try and create an intimate and an emotional connection with whoever I was spending time with, and see them as a person and try to understand them and that kind of things. So it's like connecting this slut energy to the heart, but then also to discernment and to boundaries, super important. So when she's not connected to these things, obviously we're in the shadow realm of her. And then in the light realm, I mean, I've done a lot of this work. And when I first birthed this, I was like really nervous to bring this out to the world. And what is her light side? So I've really sat with this question a lot. But number one, if you are in a relationship, this energy it's like a lifeblood. And even if you're not in a relationship, just to have integrated in ourselves, right? Like there is so much life force in this archetype, like so much lifeblood. So if she's disconnected, if she's sort of, another shadow aspect of her is being completely sort of relegated to the basement and like not integrated at all, right? If that's the case, if someone is, say, so in their light feminine, then there can be a real amount of like life force that's dormant, number one. Number two, it's like she's such a playful energy, and she is just a part of our human range, like in our humanness, when we're connected to our full sexuality, that she is a very important, shall we say, like string on the instrument of our like range of our sexuality. And if that's missing, it can just sometimes feel like, I don't know, there's a lack of integration, and there's a lack of like range that is really helpful for people to have online, to have like full enjoyment in what we kind of came here to be as human, to have like enjoy this full range. And like when you're experiencing her with a partner, it can create such intimacy, and I feel like she's really hungered from the masculine, shall we say. So if she's not online at all, that can also lead to problems. So there's so much, I mean, this is like a whole podcast in itself. I'm gonna pause there, but I feel like I could say more.
Wow, amazing. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Ooh, I think, yeah, should just take a breath into that. I feel like that was a lot. And I'm like, as you were talking, like I could feel my body, like when you said lifeblood, I was like, my whole body just went
Yeah.
like that, like drew in. I was like, yeah. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess if we think about it like the elements, right? So, with the archetypes, there are, I have the centralist as water, the temple priestess as ether. Oh, I'll go in order. So the centralist as water, the huntress as earth, the temple priestess as ether, the courtesan as air, and the sacred slut as fire. So if you took away the element of fire, like it doesn't work. You know what I mean? We need all of them, and we need them all in the right doses. And of course, all of us have more of a tendency towards certain elemental expressions. I think that's astrological and so many other factors. But we do it, the people that have, say, like I have a lot of fire and a lot of water, so I'm constantly working on more earth, but then sometimes, so it's the same sort of thing, right? It's like we want to have access to all the elemental flavors, and we need to balance out some, or learn to maybe contain others, or just work with the gifts of that if we have a lot of it. But yeah, I think that's another way of explaining it, is just like in terms of sexuality, we want to be able to play the full range. It's like playing an instrument. We want to be able to play all these chords. I would say, for a really juicy sex life, like I think we want to be able to play all the chords. And you don't want to just be in sacred slut. We also need to be able to make love and be very connected to our heart, and like also to be in that earthy kind of primal expressions. Like for me, it's about that. It's like that range really allows us to create. You could use an analogy of so many things, but it could be like a piece of music or baking a pie. It's like if you miss one ingredient or one flavor or spice, it's just not going to be the same and give it the same richness. So it's really about like integrating that range for a really healthy and juicy integrated experience.
Oh my God, I love that you've connected it in with the elements, because that really makes sense. And even just saying that, it's like I could feel in my body, oh yeah, I'm so much more comfortable in this element, in this one, and actually this one needs more attention to it. When you take it like that, it also, for me, takes a bit of pressure off as well, weirdly.
Mm.
Because instead of feeling like, oh, I'm not enough of, so for example, like I'm really easy in the watery realms. Like the central is like so easy for me. That's such a flow. Like I'm very earthly as well. So like the, you know, the central delights and stuff like that. But like, as I was saying before, with the one that I needed to embody more was the sacred slut. And that's, for me, is like the fire. I need to like actually get more of my fire going. But instead of holding that in like, oh, I'm not enough, or my sacred slut's not enough online, it's like, oh, okay, actually my fire just needs a bit more attention.
Joking, yeah.
Is there that can like expand and like build my flame, you know?
Yes, yes, I love that. And it's so funny, isn't it, how we do that? Like I've, as I say, typically never had, well, astrologically, and so therefore in my own like the way I am experienced and experienced life, I'm definitely lacking in earth. And I've always shamed myself for that. I'm like, I'm not grounded enough, I'm too Vata, and you know what I mean? I used to really do it. And it's funny how we do that, but really it's just like it is just a kind of an elemental makeup sort of thing. But yeah, like what you just said is so, my experience with teaching this work in teas is that so many women who come to do it, they're either on the spectrum of like really being in this archetype and then loving it and just wanting to kind of, you know, be in this and celebrate it because they have a natural affinity for her, or, you know, maybe they're mothers and quite naturally, when we don't stoke a fire and tend to it, it dwindles, right? It's like a fire doesn't just stay roaring without without tending to it. So the other side of that spectrum is women who have this like little flame, and they know that they will serve them and their relationship to stoke and to tend to this fire, but that, you know, maybe, you know, they maybe do carry shame around the fact that it has dwindled, but actually there's nothing to be ashamed of, because it makes total sense that if you're having babies and you're a busy mum, that this is gonna, so coming to a night like teas or doing a journey like Temple of Eros, that's part of the point, is that we have this dedicated space to actually like re-tend to this fire, or re-tend to whichever one of those elemental flavors and archetypes are, for whatever reason, subdued. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so should we go into the embodiment practice?
Yes, 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 yes. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to have a little shift. Oh, I love your cat. Okay. All right, well, you'll enjoy this one because it's the sensualist, so it's very watery, which we both are, very watery, and I start with this one because this is the first archetype that I work with, both in teas and Temple of Eros, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's the foundation because it's the felt sense, right? So if we're not even remotely connected to the body or to the felt sense, it's going to be very hard to do really any of the other work. So it's a good starting place. So yeah, so I'll just invite you to close down your eyes. And let's do 5 deep in-breaths together, and then letting out a sigh with your exhale, letting out an actual sigh, an audible sound from your throat. So starting to activate the vagus nerve. Just feeling yourself drop down with each exhale. Allow this sigh to actually feel really sensual. Last one, deep breath in, allowing the belly to expand. And then just bringing your awareness to your jaw and allowing your jaw to become really heavy and just slightly dropping down, so the jaw and the mouth are slightly open. And we're going to do a conscious connected breath. So no pause between the inhale and the exhale. It's like a circular breath. So deep breath in through an open mouth, and then exhale, just like a soft organic exhale. The breath just kind of falls out with the exhale. So deep breath in through the open mouth, relaxed exhale, no pause between the inhale and the exhale. So a circular breath. And I'm going to invite you to make this breath sound and feel as sensual as you can invite it to be. So maybe slowing it right down, making a sound with the exhale if that feels good to you. Drinking in the inhale as if you're drinking in your favorite liquid. Experiencing the texture of the breath. No pause between the inhale and the exhale. As if the breath and the air has become like velvet. And with the exhale, you can slightly activate your pelvic floor. It's like you're trying to hold a wee in, just lifting up the pelvic floor. So we're at the same time as breathing, bringing our awareness down into the pelvic bowl. Maybe experimenting with that, drawing up on the inhale and just feel what feels right to you. Yeah, it feels better for me actually to bring the pelvic floor up with the inhale and then relax everything with the exhale. So keeping the focus on this circular connected breath, inviting the breath to be as sensual as possible, encouraging yourself to make some sounds with the exhale, and then gently activating the pelvic floor with the inhale and relaxing with the exhale, just bringing your pelvic bowl online as you breathe. Just a few more rounds. Really seeing if you can enjoy this experience of dropping inwards, of being with the sensuality of your breath. Beautiful. Beautiful, love. Allowing any yawns to come, knowing that you're just rewriting and invigorating your energy body. And then when you're ready, you can relax the breath and just allow it to happen how it wants to. So organically breathing, but seeing if you can keep this connection to the breath being sensual as you breathe. So still maybe letting out some exhales, still breathing into the belly with the inhale, maybe moving your spine softly with each breath. And then bringing your awareness to your first sense, so your sight. We'll start with sight, and just noticing your eyelids, the back of your eyelids, noticing any color here. Maybe you just see blackness, but also noticing the texture of this darkness. Noticing if there's any color within the darkness. Noticing whatever you see behind the screen of your eyelids. Really allowing yourself to receive the tapestry behind your eyelids. And the centralist is so about receiving, which immediately drops us into our feminine, into our receptive nature. And then bringing your awareness to your ears, to your sound, to the sound. Noticing what you can hear in your space. What can you hear on a micro level? So maybe your breath, my voice, maybe your cat. And then on a macro level, so allowing your awareness of your hearing to expand out further than your immediate surroundings, noticing, can you hear what's outside the building you're in? Seeing how far you can stretch your awareness of your hearing, maybe all the way to a nearby tree, or for me, I can hear the waves of the sea in Hove. And then licking your lips and bringing your awareness to your taste, to your tongue. Noticing any flavor you have in your mouth, noticing the sense of taste. And then taking a deep breath in and noticing the sense of smell. Can you smell anything on you? Maybe some of your beautiful oils that you work with. What do you smell in your space or on you? Really bringing your full awareness to your smell. Noticing any other layers of whatever you're smelling that maybe wouldn't be so immediately noticeable if you weren't really attuning to this sense. And then lastly, bringing your awareness to the sense of touch and noticing what you can feel on your body. So maybe you can feel your seat, whatever contact your seat is making. So whether that's your bottom with the chair or on the material that you're sat on, noticing maybe your hands, your skin touching one another, just noticing whatever you can notice in the realm of touch, the texture of your clothes on your skin. Noticing how sensual this experience is, of really bringing your awareness to whatever you can sense in the realm of touch. Noticing any temperature that you can feel, maybe some pockets of warmth or some pockets of coolness. And then taking another deep breath and letting out a sigh. really bringing your awareness even further in and deeper down. You're already probably really in now. So just bringing it in and deeper down, inviting your awareness in and deeper down. And we're just going to attune to 5 different felt senses. So what I mean by felt sense, for anyone listening that doesn't quite know that terminology, it's the sensation-based language of the feminine. So something like tingles or coolness or tightness, or maybe contraction in my heart, or spaciousness in my lungs, or tingling in my left toe, anything like this, very much sensation based. And I just want you to name 5 sensations out loud to yourself. This really helps bring both hemispheres of the brain, online and in harmony. So naming these 5 sensations out loud to yourself, the most prominent ones, or maybe even finding a couple of prominent ones and then a couple of subtle ones. And when you're ready, you can bring your hand to your heart so I know that you're done. Beautiful. And then let's just take a really deep breath into our heart, consciously drawing this life force energy into the heart space, filling up your chest, your heart cavity. Letting out a sigh. And just so it's more of a gentle kind of reorienting to the topside world and to the Zoom land. I don't want you to open your eyes quickly, just very gently blink open your eyes and look around your space. So orient to your space. This is really good for the nervous system. This helps the nervous system just really land in the present moment. It really supports the animal of our body to arrive and to feel safe on a very deep subconscious level. So we'll do this together. Blinking open the eyes. Really taking in the textures and the colors of your space. Looking behind you and to the sides. There we go.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
That was mini, just like a taster of the central.
Oh my God, that feels so good.
It was beautiful to witness you.
Oh, it feels so good. Thank you.
Isn't it amazing how just like, I don't know, 8 minutes of tuning in can just reset us? Amazing.
It's incredible. It's totally incredible. Oh my goodness, Sophie, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely loved our conversation. It's been so rich. I feel like loads of things feel alive as well. And so for those listening, how can they find you and what are you offering at the moment? What can people
sign up for
you? I'll start with you.
So I try and run teas like once a month or every other month at least. And what's been amazing is all year it's been pretty much selling out pretty quickly. I think people are hungry for this energy, which is great. And it's just such a fun night. So it's always good to get on the wait list for teas if you do want to attend. There's an online self-study version, and then there's the IRL version, which is so epic because we get to practice on the other women, and it's a real like temple, very fun space. And which I know I would love you to come and join when you next can.
So you want to join?
So I would love it. Well, it'll happen. We know it'll happen. I'm excited. And then we should totally talk about running one in Glastonbury as well in the summer. And then there's also there's going to be, the next one is going to be online on IMOLC in February the 1st. So if anyone is, from around the world and they want to join, there's an online one too. So there's Tees, there's Temple of Eros, which has closed now, but I'll be running again in 2024. But there is a self-study option all in Kajabi, which is great. I think it will just be as potent, and some people prefer to, journey on that in their own time and space. So there's that. And then I've just birthed my one-to-one offering, which is called Vessel. And so, that's the big thing right now that I'm working on. And that's it for now. I'm sure there'll be more things coming through, but for now, those are my main offerings.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we'll put all of the links underneath the video.
Oh, thank you, my love. Oh, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thank you for having me in my super premenstrual set state.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining, for listening, for watching. It's just an honor to be with you all. Thank you. Thank you. Sending everyone so much love.
Thank you, my love.